Hello, my astrology friends and family. This is Lada from AstroladaOfficial. And today I am with two of my favorite people in the whole world. I feel them so close, instant connection, but they're incredible teachers as well. And this is Elena and Alejandro. Hello.
Hi, Lada.
Hello.
It's always
Great to
such a
see you.
pleasure to be here with you. And I know when we we read all the frequencies of the generations, which we'll talk about today, you were the first person I thought of from an astrological point of view to reach out and say, what is it? Because we've discovered something that is so unique and profound. And I was wondering if astrology will show it. And you absolutely confirmed. And therefore, we've decided, let's reveal this to the whole world.
Exactly.
I'm getting goosebumps, by the way, because what Elena and Alejandro discovered is a game changer for the future of humanity. And they will give you some extremely hopeful and positive news. But before we start, so we're going to look at all the generations, starting from the baby boomers, the generation,
Generation X,
the Xennials, the Millennials,
Gen Z,
Generation Z, and Generation Alpha.
Yes.
Yes. But before that, can you explain, for those of you who don't know what you're doing, exactly how you work and the scale of consciousness?
Yes, of course. Happy to explain it. So Alejandro and I have created a system. Actually, we've perfected the scale recently. I don't know if you saw that, but we've changed the scale. It's no longer linear. And we've recognized doing this now thousands of times over, that everything is built on awareness of itself. And this is what consciousness is. This is how universe works.
Mm-hmm.
From the quantum perspective, there is no linear timelines, right? Everything is built on awareness. So we use scalar wave technology, 3 different instruments to read everything in the biofield. And biofield is a record keeper of all of the information. There's actually a brand new emerging field in science for those that are interested from a quantum perspective. There's different names for it: the divine matrix, the biofield, the morphogenetic field, the morphic field. Somebody actually in our community recently said it is the book of life. You're reading from the book of life. And that book of life really is the field itself.
Mm-hmm.
It holds all of the information, all the past events, the probabilities of the future, and it's all revealed in the now. So we're able to retrieve this information using scalar wave technology. And by the way, we can put a link to the scale so people will be able to download the scale and get themselves familiar with all the numbers. What do these numbers mean?
And then basically 1,000 is the highest. Mm-hmm. It's the consciousness of masters and Jesus Christ and all the ascended masters. And below 200 is when consciousness is on the negative scale, where there's fear, anger, and anything above 200 is starting to vibrate positively, to be life-affirming and creative rather than life-destructive. Below 200 life-destructive. Currently, as I remember, at the year 2022, you measured that the level of human consciousness is 125, which leads to wars. We're in the situation right now.
Yes.
But you did some incredible experiment. You measured the vibration of each of the different generations, starting with the baby boomers, how they vibrate currently. Of course, they can be individual people from each of this generation that vibrate much higher. As you constantly show in your programs, Elena and Alejandro have a great subscription service where you can, I'll put a link below, you can subscribe, and they have a weekly video on important people, important events that they measure their vibration, and they cover a lot of different things like you'll see now. If you're interested to follow them, and you can give suggestions who you want to be measured, or you can have private readings with them for specific questions, just like I chose my house thanks to a reading they did from a picture with scalar wave technology. But now I'm very excited to hear the generations and for us to discuss what this means for humanity.
Yes, absolutely. And this was such a fascinating idea for us too, because we wanted to understand where we are as a collective and why we're there. And this is really, I would say, a human story, but this story is shifting. And that's the beautiful thing. And if you remember, over a year ago, we looked at events and projecting into the probabilities of the year 2045, 2046, where a big shift in the human collective is going to happen. And we wanted to know, what was it? So one part, of course, could be different events leading up to this. And the second part is what we've discovered is based on very specific generation, which we're excited to share because there's so much misunderstanding and misconceptions of what new generations represent. Now, one thing I wanted to touch upon as far as the scale, we also broke down the scale in 4 parts. So not only does it represent frequencies, but it also represents major states of consciousness. For example, up until from 0 to 199 is representative of victimization. And this is where majority of humanity has been through the ages, where we are seeing ourselves through the lens of them versus us, that somebody else is doing things to us and we're waiting for that one person to come and save us, or for whatever event is going to occur to save us. And this is the huge realization I'm hoping for most human beings to recognize, that no one is coming to save us. We have to wake up to the full potential of who we are as human beings. We have everything inside of us. And then the scale goes into activation, so from victimization to activation, which is from 200 to 499. And then it's about inspiration frequencies from 500 to 699. And then it goes into the illumination. And 1000 is what we call the divine essence. And that divine essence, the divine spark, exists in each human being. And this is why we incorporated the Russian nesting doll. So if you look at the dolls, and the smallest part inside, the smallest doll inside is that golden aspect, the golden light that exists within each and every one of us. So it's hopefully what we present to you today inspires all of you to look at your own children, your own grandchildren as that divine, beautiful future that is here, and how we can all contribute to elevating and nurturing all the little children coming in at the moment to support what is going to happen on this planet. So,
and just to remind people that when you read the vibration of the years ahead, you suddenly reach to 2045 or 46, I forgot, and you're like, suddenly the consciousness of humanity jumps to how much?
So initially in 2045, it's
2045 is in the 350s.
350, and then the
2046 will go up to 525. That's
Wow.
the vibrational frequency of the collective.
Yeah, that's a massive change over the years for the humans.
But it means we continue to grow till 2045, because now we're at 125. And we reached 350. So there continues to be improvement, but I think you'll give us the answer why.
Yes. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's start with baby boomers, right? And we're going to look, we've incorporated, by the way, for those people that had seen our previous episodes, we've incorporated a lot of new categories, right? So for baby boomers, year 2022. Okay. Overall vibrational frequency is 100, which is that frequency of worry and fear. Now, we looked at health aspect. How do they view their relationship with health? And again, all these parameters are based on how do they perceive the lens of consciousness through which they filter the information related to different topics, right? So health is 50, which is very much frequency of disassociation, disconnection. So then we started breaking down health now into 3 aspects: relationship or connection with mind, body, and soul. So mind relationship for baby boomers is 125, which is this addictive kind of unfulfilled desire. Body is 50, which is again disconnect, disassociate, and soul is 50 also. So there is this big disconnect. And there's a lot of questions that come up perhaps due to the events also that have occurred in the last 2 years that contributed to this big disconnect with the body, right? And with the soul. Finances, they view through the lens of worry and fear, 100, creativity, 250. So creativity is like a very neutral place. And these are the people now that are older. It's an older generation. So in many cases, many of them are not employing their creativity, right? It's more of like this neutral zone. Relationships, they view through the lens of fear, 100. Personal growth, which is interesting, is 175. And it's this very prideful way of relating to personal growth. Like, I know it all, but do you really know it all? And again, this is a generic, the collective. We're reading the collective. Philanthropy, the art of sharing and giving, is also 175. And then we introduced service to self and service to others. So for baby boomers, service to self is 200, which is that point of connection now, activation, right? Heroic frequency. But service to others is 50, disconnected, disassociated. Then we looked at their intuition, which oftentimes, again, we're not measuring how intuitive they are, but their relationship or how they perceive information that comes in. And it's 50 overall. Clairaudience is 50, clairsentience, clairvoyance, and claircognizance. Well, the clairvoyance, clairsentience are 50, and claircognizance is 200. Now, we also looked at different levels of intelligence. IQ is 175, which is very prideful relationship with information. EQ, which is supposed to be the most powerful intelligence aspect, right? And it's 50. There is this big disconnection. And again, Alejandro and I have our own theories why that is. Again, due to the events that have been happening over the last 2 years, because we've noticed that if certain things are done, which we're not going to mention on this video, it will absolutely disconnect a person from their body and decrease the emotional intelligence. SQ, social quotient. How do baby boomers feel when they're in networking settings or in communities? And there is that element of fear, 100. And AQ, oftentimes I would say it's very karmic, adversity quotient. It's what we inherit as a pattern from our parents. It's intergenerational of how we respond to stressors. How do we respond to difficulties? And in their case, it's frequency of 50. Again, disassociation, disconnection. They enjoy their role overall 70%, in the ego 100%. And it's that 100% inferior. So the feeling of they're not good enough. Whatever they do will never be good enough. And it's also, I would say, very much programmed, right, into how we perceive reality. In the now, 48%, so that also means that they're very much focused on worrying about the future and reliving the past and not so much being in the present moment. Integrity, 100%. Integrity to themselves, 100%. Integrity to others, 100%. Self-awareness.
When they say they'll do something, they'll do it.
They do it. Yes, they do it. Yes, they are people of their word, right? This is the generation that takes pride in keeping their word. Self-awareness, 70%, clarity, 86%. Alignment with divine purpose is 97%, which is fascinating. And this is, if you look at the bigger picture, it also serves all these generations that we're revealing as a great example that they are serving by being what they are as an example for all of us to also shift. So this is a beautiful mirror, right? Alignment with divine purpose, 97%. Alignment with personal purpose, 100%. So most of them feel like they've done what they wanted. They've lived their life. And now it's more about hopefully enjoying their life. Compassion, 98%. So very compassionate generation. Empathy, 93%. Energy purity, which means how much do they embody this overall frequency of 100? And they do at 94%. And then, of course, we checked dimensions. We wanted to know how much time they spent or they activate this feeling of the fifth dimension, and it's 3%. So you could see this is very much part of this old paradigm, right? This old three-dimensional, they're much more in the 3D versus this 5D conversation that is happening on this planet at the moment.
This is fascinating about the generation baby boomers, because astrologically, the baby boomers were born during Pluto in Leo. The Pluto defines those generations in the 30s, 40s, and into the 50s. And the word prideful and pride and the dignity was used a lot. And that's what Leo is about. And also that when they say something, they do it. This is very Leo quality of, how did you say it? How much?
Integrity.
Integrity. That's very Leo. They're very integrity, and you said they're compassionate as well. Leo is, but there is a lot of pridefulness there, as you can see. And for me, the generation baby boomers, Pluto in Leo, I believe they were very creative and they have a lot of creativity. As far as I remember, you measured their creativity was above 200. That was one of their highest scores. So it still shows, even though they're in their 70s and 80s even, or 60s, it shows that the spark of creativity that Pluto and Leo shows. So
that's great.
Which
yes, the next one will be Generation X.
Generation
This is our
X.
generation.
Can you tell me which years approximately? Because we're having here Pluto in Virgo says till 90, from 1956 till 1970 something.
From 1965 to 1979.
And there's overlaps.
Pretty much on the top. Exactly. Pluto and Virgo. Yeah.
Yes. Their overall frequency, 125. The unfulfilled desire, or similar.
Are they starting the wars now?
It's a step up from the previous generation, but they're wanting a change, right? This frequency shift from like 100 to 125. That's a desire to change something.
Yes, it's similar to what we have experienced. Last year was 100 for the human collective, right? And this year is 125. So kind of following the same pattern. Health, 100. Connection to mind, 125. Connection to body, 100. And connection to soul, 200. So there's an increase there from the previous generation, especially when it comes to connection to soul. No?
They feel more spiritual. More
yes.
Okay.
A little more, there's more openness.
Exploring. The spiritual side, yes.
Finances, 100, similar to the baby boomers. Creativity, this is a little higher at 500. It was 250 for the baby boomers, right? Yes. Relationships, 125. This is the unfulfilled desire, which is a little higher than the previous generation at 100. Personal growth, 540.
That's a big
That is
change.
a level of bliss, joy, right?
They're really trying to improve themselves, perfect themselves.
That brings them joy, right?
Yeah, more spiritually open, for sure.
That too, yes. Philanthropy, 125, which is, okay, a little lower than the previous one. Service to self, 125, and service to others, 50. So there's still room for growth there. Intuition, 100. And under clairaudience, 50, clairsentience, 100, clairvoyance, 100, and claircognizance, 200. Now there's a little, almost the same. It's exactly the same when it comes to the intelligence aspect. We have the IQ, 175. EQ, the emotional quotient, is 100. SQ, social quotient, 100. And AQ, the adversity quotient, 50. Now, in the joy.
Pampered generations, they can't cope with stress, with difficulty so much.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're breaking a mold from a spiritual, I would say, perspective, right? But there's still the same programming that's been passed on So that mold is somehow still there.
The same patterns are being repeated, yes. But at least they're willing to explore, right? To open the door and see what's behind it. In the joy, 76%. In the ego, 100%. And 100% of that is the inferior version of the ego. In the now, 62%, a little more present than the previous generation. Integrity, 87%. Integrity to self, 100%. And integrity to others, 70%. So here is where they're
different.
Yes, willing to explore, but it's still doubtful because they're trying to detach from that which has been proven to work or not work, or to adjust the programming, but they haven't experienced enough to where they're confident to stand by it and not.
The integrity is a big difference,
rules, you know?
Though, right?
That's why jeopardizes their integrity levels. Self-awareness, 75%. Clarity, 90%. So at least they have some sense of clarity. They feel that they're clear on what path they're on. Alignment with divine purpose, 100%. And alignment with personal purpose, 100%. So they're on their path, right? Compassion, 98%. By the way, alignment with divine purpose, we compare that to self-realization, right? And it's how well they're playing their divine role, whatever they decided to experience in this lifetime. And the personal purpose is more, we can compare that to self-actualization, more as of their sense of fulfillment, right? Compassion, 98%. Empathy, 100%. Energy purity, 100%. So they're embodying the frequency of unfulfilled desire at 125 to the fullest, right? They're bathing in
This
it.
is more like revolutionary frequency. You know, we've read past events, for example, wars and revolutions, and they all had that collective consciousness of 125. So these are
they want to shake up things and
strong desire for change, right?
Yes.
And not only a desire for change, but a desire to make it happen, to see it through.
Yes.
Dimension. When it comes to dimensions, they're experiencing, even though we did measure it. Usually we don't measure when the overall frequency is below 200, but we did measure in this case, and they're experiencing the fifth dimension 26% of the time. And this number includes doing dream state, as well.
And I think this has to do with the soul connection,
their creativity at 500,
soul connection and personal growth, right? Yes. So this very much desire to explore oneself.
They're way more. I have a lot of clients from that generation, so they're trying to improve themselves, to better themselves. That's very much Pluto and Virgo generation. Virgo always wants to get better and better. So that's about searching how to do it. But again, there's 100% inferior ego, this kind of, no wonder we're so easily controlled when we're all 100% majority in the inferior ego. Not surprising, but Pluto and Virgo also generation was the generation that started protesting against wars, and they started, this is the period that all those anti-segregation laws started, and that was a generation that's during when they were being born, because that shows the energy, was when the hippies came as well around that time, and all this kind of indeed rebellious in a sense energy.
Rebellious energy.
Exactly.
And I love that it actually shows that even though the frequency of the collective for this generation is 125, but they're 100% in their alignment, right? So it also shows that we can't separate ourselves based on generations. This is number one, or say, oh, it's that person and that's not me. It's really recognition that we're one organism one species, one human, and there's different parts of us that are experiencing and growing through the generations, and it's all contributing to the ultimate human growth potential. So it's about appreciation of every generation, what they're here to teach us, and it's remarkable that they're 100% in alignment overall collectively. So it means that they are doing their job to help support the evolution or the growth of the human species on this planet, which I think is beautiful.
Beautiful. And I'd also say that probably Pluto and Virgo generation had a very strong work ethic, like the yuppies. They gave this working 12 hours, 14 hours in the office, because that's very Virgo-ish, that now the other generations are rebelling towards. They don't want to do that. They don't want to But also they have the rebellious side, Pluto and Virgo, which expresses the generation Gen Xers. They were the Nirvana kids. They created the grunge music. They created this metal music of the 80s and 90s. So this is their rebellious side, like it shows in the vibration.
Mm-hmm. Great. So the next one is going to be Xennials. Xennials starts with an X, Xennials. So they're born between the years, again, 1975 and 1985. So there's going to be an overlap in some of them as far as what year they're born in. So the overall vibrational frequency this year, 2022, is also 125, the same as the Generation X. Health, they view through the lens of 50. So lower vibration than Generation X as far as health. Mind connection to the mind is 125, same. Body connection is 50, and soul connection is 100. So there is that little disconnect there that's happening, which is interesting. Finances, they view through the lens of 125. So this is the difference from previous generations, is they want to have the change as far as financial area. Creativity, they have a very analytical, creative mind. Overall, it's 400. So they have a bit different way that they create. It's more from a mind versus I go with the flow and I create. This is very calculated, maybe very Aquarius, like, I don't know if that's related to that.
That's Pluto in Libra. Libra is an air sign, mental sign.
Oh, mental. Well, there you go.
Absolutely true. That's my generation. We approach through the mind rather than
through the mind. Yeah. Relationships, there is an element of that fear, 100, fear and worry. Now, this is interesting. The personal growth for Xennials is much higher than the previous two generations. It's a frequency of 700, this illumination. So they're striving to grow. There's this desire, but from an illuminated perspective, to grow. Philanthropy, 125. Again, desire to create a change in giving, but it's coming from the wrong place. Service to self, 125. Service to others, 200. So this is also a change from previous generations, because service to others is much more important to this generation than service to self. Intuition.
Libra is me and you, not just me. Libra always takes into consideration the other. That's the generation Libra, Xenia.
Okay, amazing. Intuition overall 125, clairaudience 125, clairsentience, and we often see this as a pattern that clairsentience, which is feeling in the body, receiving intuitive messages through feeling in the body, is very much connected to the health aspect on the chart. So that's why clairsentience is 50 here. There's this disconnection to feeling in the body, or somehow it doesn't feel safe.
In the mind.
There you go.
Putting it through the mind, yeah.
Oh, fascinating. Clairvoyance, 125, and claircognizance, 125. Again, this desire to change, to see through the lens of change, to perceive. But again, because as you say, there's that mind involved, it's not connected in a way. IQ, 175. EQ, emotional quotient, 50. Again, disconnect. The most important aspect, the emotional intelligence, there's a disconnect. SQ, how does this group feel collectively being in social settings? 125. And AQ, 100. So during challenging times, what emotion comes up? and that's the worry and fear. They enjoy their role 68%, so a little less than the previous generations. Again, ego 100%, 100% inferior. I think this is a huge message we have today for all humanity, is get out of your own way. You know, that programming is not working. In the now, 45%, again, so much in the mind that disconnected from being here and now. Integrity, 86%. Integrity to self, 84%. Integrity to others, 85%. So it's ultimately, this generation is also sacrificing integrity to themselves.
Value.
Yes, their own values.
Well, most of them are, their parents are baby boomers.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, so blame the parents.
No, not blame. They're not ready to let go, right? Of what they have been taught and programmed with. Right.
Yes. Self-awareness, 56%. So this is interesting. There's a lot more to learn about themselves as a generation, right? There's not that straightforward clarity yet. Clarity, 83%. Alignment with divine purpose for Xennials is 90%. So 90% usually for us means they've stepped onto that divine path, but it's not quite there yet. And they're younger, so somewhat younger generation. So this is yet to be they're still figuring their path out. Alignment with personal purpose, 88%. Compassion, 88%. Interesting, right? The other generations had higher compassion. This generation has a slightly lower compassion. Empathy, 92%. And this is interesting. Energy purity, which means how much do they embody this 125 frequency? And it's 67%. So again, there's that disconnection of they haven't figured out what they're about just yet, overall, collectively. And sometimes when we see this, there's also other interferences that come into play. I don't know if this is also the generation that does a lot of experimentals with psychedelics or, different things like that. So this is much more perhaps.
That was the generation of ecstasies and such kind of stuff. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. So that could be interfering with this, right? Because it's taking you away from your core self, core essence. Mm-hmm. And then the dimensions there we checked, and there's 0% in fifth dimension. Again, this is overall collectively. So this is a great invitation, I would say, to look at the patterns you inherit from previous generations, right? And also look, as this is a huge mirror, right, for all of us to look through and say, where am I out of integrity to myself, first and foremost? And then that always will reflect into that integrity to others and how to be more present.
Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead. I know you get excited.
And yes, and just pay attention to the thoughts that we entertain, right? And without blaming, in this case, more than likely,
the parents,
right? Because everyone has the ability to exercise their free will and to, it's a matter of choice, right? So we can change the programming. And now when it comes to the numbers, I was looking at the, in the now, when it comes to the baby boomers, they were at 48%, if I'm not mistaken.
Let me see.
And the Xennials now are at 45. So it's very similar, right? Why is it that I'm not, that I'm almost as present as my parents were, right? It's not because of my parents, it's because something needs to be adjusted, right? How is that impacting my life, my decision-making process? Right? So we can take full responsibility and just be with compassion towards ourselves. We can take baby steps and then make the necessary adjustments to increase our level of joy, because at the same time,
it's also lower. Joy is lower, 68%.
Also a little lower,
Wow, that's a low one, for Pluto in Libra Xennials. And there's this, we focus here that they don't connect so much to the heart and they're too much in their head, but they want to be of service more. They kind of want to help others a bit more rather than just serve themselves, which is a step up. And their creativity was very intellectual, something that, but there's still a lot of pridefulness about their knowledge, as far as I remember, but they're more disconnected than the previous generation in their hearts. Now comes a very interesting one. Millennials, Pluto in Scorpio.
Yes. Millennials. So they started being born at the year 1980, and it ends at 1994, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Pluto in Scorpio, exactly the time, almost, yeah.
Oh, wow. So their overall frequency, 125. That's the unfulfilled desire.
Addiction, right? It's also frequency of addiction.
Health, 125. Connection to mind, 125. Connection to body, 100. And connection to soul, 125. So there is this unfulfilled desire for...
But it's a step up in health for this generation,
too,
right? Health.
Just trying to figure out what is going to take in there. Finances, 125. Creativity, 500. Relationships, 175. Personal growth, 540. Philanthropy, 125. Now, service to self, 125. And service to others, 100. So the service to self at 125 can also expand this addiction, whatever they're addicted to, you know? You can reinforce it. Intuition, 125. Clairaudience, 125. Clairsentience, 125. Clairvoyance, 125. And claircognizance, 200.
You know, these numbers, just to interject quickly, there's a lot of 125s, which is a big step up from previous generation because there is that desire to change. Again, this is based on frequencies. This is a generation that's really seeking for that change. I think
that's the yearning vibration, is it? I really want to do better, but it's still kind of like from an addiction, like I want it, but I can't have it. And it's, but they're going after it.
Yes.
We will say that they want it bad enough to go after it, but at the same time, they're reminding themselves of the lack of, you know, they keep reminding themselves, okay, I want the Rolls Royce, an example, but they keep reminding themselves, but I'm not happy driving this Toyota, you know, on a daily basis. So that's why they're experiencing so much resistance. If they were able to just be open and know that everything happens in divine timing, and all you have to do is just to align with that which you're desiring to experience, then you're not inviting resistance, and things will be manifested a lot quicker, you know?
Exactly.
They'll be able to enjoy it.
I want this, but I don't have it. That's frustration energy.
Exactly. Now, under the intelligence aspect, IQ 175, the EQ, emotional quotient, 200.
That's a big change.
That's
actually.
a big jump from 50, was it?
50, 100.
50 from the Xennials.
Yes.
Well, I'm not surprised because Scorpio is a water sign, is emotional intelligence. So they show the most strongly that they're way more emotionally clued in.
They have
than Xennials.
Yes, they've activated that collectively.
Exactly. I didn't mean to speak through you, but you did somehow.
I spoke through you. We do that.
The SQ 200, the social quotient, you know, they're courageous enough to explore and connect. AQ, the adversity quotient, 100. At least there's an improvement from the previous
What was AQ 100, but we've had 50.
Which was the baby boomers were.
And Generation X had 50 in the AQ. But still, that fear is very much present.
And that's part of the programming, right? It has been repeated. Now, in the joy, 73%. In the ego, 97%. And 95% of that is the inferior version of the ego.
That's a little drop there. A little adjustment.
Right, from 100%.
Yes.
In the now, 65%. A little improvement as well, we'll say. Integrity, 78%. Integrity to self, 91%. And integrity to others, 60%. So you're desiring change at any cost, in a way, crossing boundaries and breaking rules.
That's very scorpionic.
Exactly, investigating, right, to figure out.
No matter what the means, I'll get there.
Right, and of course, please, no offense to anyone in particular. There were whoever was born between 1980 and 1994. This is collectively, right? So.
Yeah, it's not personal, but it's a great mirror for all of us to look into.
Definitely, yes. So integrity, we said that. Self-awareness, 66%. Clarity, 80%. Alignment with divine purpose, 88%. So they're a little off track.
They haven't figured it out yet.
Right, they're figuring it out. Alignment with personal purpose, 90%. So somewhat they're feeling like, oh, maybe this is what works, but only for the persona self is thinking that, right? Compassion, 94%. Empathy, 95%. Energy purity, 92%. And dimensions, nothing under the fifth dimension.
Oh, wow.
Not at the moment. Maybe next year we'll shift.
Collectively, right? In and out.
In and out.
Yes, maybe. But currently, 2022, people seem to be quite. Those 4 generations we looked at, no wonder we're, majority agreeing with whatever is being fed to us in this fear state. And
right.
But the Scorpio one, the millennials, what I notice is the emotional intelligence they can see. And Pluto in Scorpio generation, I believe, are the ones that are seeing a lot through the lies. They're seeing a lot through the manipulations. They feel this person doesn't feel right. Like Pluto penetrates and reads Scorpio. Pluto in Scorpio penetrates and reads like on a X-ray. And if something is fishy, maybe they won't understand it intellectually, but something in their heart. So I think there is already big resistance from those generations into the manipulations that are happening because they're feeling it. So maybe the biggest purpose.
Yes, they're the change makers also, the 125 frequency, big time. But now it's about being in full integrity. This is really the key for this generation, is to honor their feelings. Like you said, maybe, they're feeling all these things, but really to honor, to learn to honor it, because as you said, that this is the water, very much related, water sign related to emotions, right? So it's about honoring emotional intelligence.
Yeah, it is all about alignment, right? It's not about just acquiring something, but how do you feel? How do you feel during the process, and how do you feel once it's there, right? When it has been manifested, and this eagerness of this unfulfilled desire, and by not paying too much attention to the consequences, is sort of like stems from an inner conflict for sure, but it's a major contradiction too, right? Mm-hmm. They're running fast, but at the same time, they don't know where they're going in a way, right? Yeah. So let's see if we can hit the home run.
Oh, because of the alignment with divine purpose, it's not fully there.
To hit a home run with a tennis racket instead of a baseball bat.
Well, all right. Next one is Gen Z, Generation Z. And that is born between 1995 and ends at 2012. So that generation.
Pluto in Sagittarius, yeah. Just saying, that's Pluto in Sagittarius almost aligns within 2-3 years. So now it's getting interesting. Sagittarius is a very, very wise sign and more spiritual. Let's see what happens here.
This is interesting because this is the first generation this year, right? So we're looking at all these frequencies for this year. Their overall frequency is the frequency of 200, which is the frequency of activation, the heroic frequency. So this is no longer the victim mentality where the human collective is at the moment. So they're transcended that. So they're different, which is great. Now, health, they view health from the lens of 125. Mind 125, connection to body 100, connection to soul 125. Finances, they view finances in a different way, 200. This is, again, the first generation this year that looks at finances through a different lens. Creativity, 500. So they go into this flow state. It's very different from connecting to the mind, like we've looked at some previous generations, versus connecting through the state of coherence. Relationships is very different for this generation also, drastically different. It's 250. So as previous ones were, let's say 175, 100, 125, this generation looks at relationships through the lens of 250, which is observation. They like to observe.
It's so interesting that both generations, and previous one too, but especially the Millennials and the Gen Z, they were both born at 225.
We didn't give those numbers, but yes.
So, but now they are experiencing a higher frequency. The Gen Z higher frequency than the Millennials, even though they were both born at the same frequency. And they have different numbers throughout the chart too.
But personal growth this year, personal growth for Gen Z is 700. So
wow,
yes.
Sagittarius is to knowledge, expansion.
Higher knowledge, yes. Philanthropy, 310, the art of sharing and giving, service to self, 310, service to others, also 310. So very balanced there. Intuition, trusting what they're feeling, is 310, drastically different than the previous one, right? So clairaudience, 310. Clairsentience 125, clairvoyance 310, and claircognizance 310. One thing I want to say with this clairsentience and the health aspect, as we see through all these generations, somehow I feel what's happened in the last 2 years with the pandemic, it's bringing up a lot of that karmic conversations that we've had throughout generations of what it means to connect to our body. Because you can see there's that disconnect. So this is a great opportunity for those that are wanting to understand themselves through different lenses. This is an opportunity for you to invite a different conversation in your life related to your health.
Right. It's all about the connection with the mind, body, and soul.
Yes.
All as a whole, right? Like holistic.
Yes. IQ, this generation is very different. It's 200. Again, they have a healthier relationship with how they perceive information. EQ, emotional intelligence, drastically different. It's 310. That's a huge jump.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be because they're younger and the world hasn't beaten them down yet?
Could be. Yes. Yes. It can totally be. So EQ is different, SQ is different, it's 250, and AQ is 200. Again, so it could be that they're still young, but some of them are in their 20s already.
Yeah, 25, 26.
Yes. They enjoy their role, collectively 84%. So this generation tends to have a lot more fun and enjoy themselves. Ego, 92%, so a little lower. And inferior egos, 89%. So again, they're not letting their ego, it's still high, but it's not 100% like we've seen before, right? So
and usually when we read children, they have their ego to the roof, you know. It's
They what?
at 100%, 100% of the
Children.
ego, children or teenagers.
Yes. So there's something different about this generation.
Because they're trying to figure out what resonates with them, right? And so they haven't experienced enough. They're not aware enough. So then they decide to go by what is being presented to them instead. So they attach to thought.
The children, right?
Right?
Little children in general.
Right?
Yes. In the now for this generation is 68%. Integrity, 95%. Integrity to themselves is 95%, and integrity to others is 95%. So also different, right? There's a difference from previous generation. Self-awareness, 79%. So they're much more aware collectively of themselves. Alignment, 87%. Clarity, clarity, 87%. Alignment with divine purpose is 94%. So again, they're walking the path that they incarnated to walk. Alignment with personal purpose is 70%. So you could see the drastic difference, and that has to do with because they're still young, and from a persona self, they still want to experience a lot more. So that's why the number is lower. And usually in young people, the personal purpose alignment tends to be lower. Compassion, 97%. So very compassionate generation. Empathy, 96%. Energy purity, 98%. And they experience fifth dimensions, 38%.
Whoa.
So,
I'm noticing something here. Like the people that are most creative are either the ones that are in retirement age, or the kids and the young children. And it seems everyone is compassionate or emphatic. All humanity is quite creative on the whole. But the most creative are either the very old ones or the very young ones.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
There's something to take from this generation. And, for people who have children and grandchildren, this is also an amazing opportunity to connect, to try to understand the newer generations and what it is, what gifts they're bringing to humanity. And same thing I would say for younger generations to connect to older generations, because there's so many beautiful lessons that they're here to teach us, right, about ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And they don't seem to have any of these 50 vibrations, which is apathy or deception. No. There's most of their readings is above 200, which is in the positive vibration already. So there's hope already.
There is already big hope. And then the last one.
Generation Alpha. Birth began at 2013 and it ends 2025.
In some places say 2012.
I think it started even a bit earlier, but that's Pluto in Capricorn. And as we know them in astrology, these are the ancient souls. These are generations of ancient, older souls that come.
Wow, it makes
old people sense. In young bodies.
Oh, that's amazing.
It makes absolute sense.
Because they were born at the frequency of 500. Yes, in the flow, right? And their overall frequency now, as of 2022, is 500. When it comes to health, 250. Connection to mind, 400. Connection to body, 200. Connection to soul, 250. I think you're definitely going to increase your following drastically when they graduate high school, get a job.
But one thing I want to say.
Afford your services.
But one thing I wanted to say, so many people are concerned with all the shots and how it's impacting the children. And this is a very profound message. I just want people to understand there is something massively, drastically different.
Oh, definitely. So clear.
And you'll see throughout the numbers that it's not even impacting them in the same way that all the previous generations have been impacted. So this is a big takeaway, I think, about this generation as well.
Yeah, it's like they they dropped into this reality with a totally different type of manual. You know?
Yes.
or directions, instruction manual that they're following is totally different for sure. They process the information in a different way.
And when we're worried, we were talking with you before we started that how people are saying young children now, all they do, they're like zombies, they're on their computer games, they'll be probably the dumbest generations. You are seeing the opposite. It's not
Complete opposite.
Well,
it's not gonna deprave them, make them empty, dumb.
Because we're here to experience, you know, all of us, one way or another, whether we're aware or not, consciously or unconsciously, is freedom, joy, and expansion, right? And does it really matter if you're enjoying yourself while playing Xbox, riding a bike, or climbing a mountain, pulling 50 kilos of potatoes, or you're eating 50 kilos of potatoes
like
while watching football? You know, it's just because we think that it should be one way or the highway, that whatever doesn't fit in that box is should be prohibited. You know, that is really.
So as long as it's not addictive, but they don't have those addictive vibrations of 125.
No.
So
and we're not doing individual, but
collective.
Yeah. Individually they can be, but as a generation, they can more easily overcome addictions. Like our generations are full of addictive numbers, drinks, whatever, food. These kids are not there. Yeah, they're not in that vibration.
Finances. This is also a major difference, although they're little, and we have read many children that have high numbers on their finances. In their case, for the generation Alpha is 500. Creativity, 700. Relationships, 500.
Wow, love.
Yes.
Personal growth, 800.
These are ancient souls. I mean, to come in this way and just have these numbers, it's remarkable.
Yes, they're ready. No one has to convince them of anything. You know, they just feel it and follow what resonates with them, and that's it, right? Philanthropy, 500. Service to self, 250. Service to others, 500.
You're like saints. That's cute.
Major difference, right?
Wow.
Intuition, 500. Clairaudience is 500. Clairsentience, 250. Clairvoyance, 500. And claircognizance, 700.
They're born knowing.
Well, I think, Alejandra, I think when they grow up, I'll have no clients. They'll know everything. Need us with Elena. I think it's the opposite. I want my baby boomers and
exactly. Figure out through astrology how you can extend the life span, you know. Convince him. Convince them. The vibration
of the whole world.
Exactly. Just convince them on a daily basis that they can live up to 200 years of age, you know. IQ, 350.
Drastically different, right? From 175.
EQ.
They don't think they know it all. There is 350s. What is it?
It's acceptance, but it's really about receiving. It's receptivity. So they're just open to, you know, non-attachment in many ways.
Open to receive it and
flow with it.
See how it feels. If it resonates, then follow it. Right? EQ 400. SQ 500, like rock stars. They're born like magnetic. They're born rock stars with the magnetism of a rock star.
But also, you know what it is? It's also about that community this frequency is very important for them. So that sense of connection, the sense of families, some kind of communities is so important. It's actually drastically different than the past generations, because these are going to be the beings that are going to be creating communities.
Yes.
Because we can't, our generations, they've tried and egos always get involved and it busts up. It's maybe for a few months and we haven't been able to do it.
Right. Especially for them, because their service to others is at 500 as well. So that's the key ingredient there, right? To have create a community, but a community where people experience flow and love and connection, without resistance, at least not too much of it. AQ, adversity quotient, 500. So that's also drastic.
And usually we inherit these patterns, right? This is the programming that we inherit intergenerationally. And this was my big question, actually, when we talked. I said, these are different humans because they're born to their parents. But what is coming in as part of Alejandro said, different type of manual is very obvious, because they're ancient and they're coming in with programming of when there's a challenging time, their AQ is love. It is not ego driven. So this is a drastic difference.
Yes.
So when Armageddon comes, I want to be surrounded by those people, when zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, it makes total sense what you said earlier, that these are ancient souls, right? They were way more evolved.
That's what my teacher said when 2012 or 2000, when Pluto goes into Capricorn, the ancient ones will start coming. I was like, what does it mean? But
well, there you go. We know exactly what it means.
That's mind-blowing, seriously.
Yes.
Now, in the joy, how much fun they're having playing their role in this reality, these ancient souls at 95%.
They're having a crash.
So they're having a blast.
Blast.
In the ego, how attached they are to information, right? To thought. It is 76%. So a lot lower than most. Kind of like guru. Most, we measure, as you know, the frequencies of many gurus, and
these are masters that are coming in.
Yes, these numbers
they're little.
Are definitely, one would think that you need to go to the top of the mountain and pray for 40 years to drop your ego this low, Yeah. They're born with it. And out of the 76% in the ego, 70% represents the inferior version of the ego. Also very low, especially at their age, In the now, 94%.
Little Buddha masters here.
Little Buddhas.
We will be their clients, not them.
That's right. We have a lot to learn. So everyone who has little kids, they are our teachers.
Yes. Integrity, 100%. Integrity to self, 100%. And integrity to others, 100%.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Self-awareness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. So more than likely, I would say, when it comes to integrity to others, is that if you sometimes it could be where we perceive it as they're trying to deceive, but they're actually so in their integrity, and they believe that their truth is the truth, right? Mm-hmm. Not necessarily they're trying to deceive anyone. They feel that is the truth. That's what is that's what resonates for them, right? But their parents might think, oh, this child is lying at me, or they're trying to pull a fast one, right? But it might not be the case. Self-awareness, 100%. Clarity, 100%. So again, they're very clear,
That's why you said ancient. This is a representation Like if we read people in this lifetime and we see somebody, which is rare, to have 100% clarity, 100% self-awareness, usually they'll have really high numbers in personal growth and they work in that area, right?
Exactly.
But for children to have that, that is totally in alignment with what you said, ancient.
Alignment with divine purpose. As we mentioned earlier, we compare this to self-realization. For them, it's 100%. Which is very unusual because out of all the readings we've done for children, or their alignment with divine purposes are like in their 50s, 60s, 70s, you know?
So and maybe the purpose, just being here is enough for them. Just being here with this vibration, without goals, without achieving, without changing the world. And some plans, they're just changing it. They're doing its job already, their job.
Yes.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's evident.
Just by being here.
Alignment with personal purpose, 60%. This makes total sense because the little kids, right? They're learning, they want to experience a lot. Compassion, 100%. Empathy, 100%. Energy purity, 100%. And when it comes to dimensions, we measured how much time they are experiencing the 7th dimension, and it's 69% of the time.
So they are the children, you can say, of the future, and they're here right now, coming in. All these gorgeous souls are coming in. And I will say that, you know, humanity is looking for the answer. Who is going to save us? Well, we all have it here already. So no one is saving us, but we're here to appreciate, learn, and grow through these young souls, and just see the magic through their experience because they're here.
That's such a relief. I don't have to save the world now, honestly. Oh my God. But this is some of the most beautiful, hopeful message I've heard since the last 2 years. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank God that divine wisdom is inspiring you to do this research and to discover such incredible information. And you opened the eyes to so many of us over the last 2 years of all the lies, institutions, people in power. I was following you like every single reading you do. I'm subscribed to Elena and Alejandro's channel, where you can, all the people that are in the media, that are famous in the moment, they read them. So you know who to trust. And actually you start, they even tell you, think what vibration you think this teacher will have, or this politician, or this actor. And you think, and then they read the vibrations, and you start, seeing how your intuition is and whether you can trust yourself normally or no. And they kind of, to be honest, you've saved many people from making mistakes the last 2-3 years since you started, of knowing who to trust and what to trust. And thank you so much for that mission and the work that you're doing, and this hopeful message for us now.
Thank you. But I wanted to know, thank you so much, Lada. What I wanted to know is also, maybe you can share what is so drastically different. We do know from a frequency perspective, but from astrology perspective about this Generation X. Maybe you can touch a little bit upon that.
Excellent.
I'm sorry, Generation Alpha.
Generation Alpha. Well, 2012, if you remember, it was the big woohoo. There is something will happen. Well, astrologically, something happened. But it was not exactly 2012. The 2012 was the pivotal moment. But our solar system, our Earth, from our perspective, when you look from the sky, from the Earth, aligned with the Sun and the galactic center, which it takes around 70 years for this alignment, which is 1 degree. They have to line up on 1 degree on the winter solstice. So for the last 30 years, so to speak, starting to pick up 30, 40 years, or, you know, because it takes 72 years to pass through 1 degree for the stars moving. Mm-hmm. So in the last few, decades, every year on the winter solstice, when you look through on the winter solstice, go away, Alpha, go away, Alpha. Aligns our solar system aligns exactly with the galactic center. And it's like a gate opening that happens. And this happens that one of the winter, summer, or spring solstices to align with the galactic center only once every 7,000 years. So that is very, very rare. And those 30, 40 years, it's been aligning, and 2012 was the right in the middle of the galactic center. And then it will take another 30, 40 years to move a degree away from it. But it's moved out from, because our solar system, this is our galaxy, the galactic center in the middle, and our solar system was a little bit below for now. And then from 2012, it equalized with the galactic center, and now it's gonna, for the next 14,000 years or something, or 12,000 years, will be moving above. Actually, for the next 24,000 years, like something like that. So it goes on a higher vibration, and that was the time it aligned, and from there on it goes up. So we're seeing this rising of vibration gradually over those generations, over the last 70 years. We almost look back 70 years. So that's when it's about, as I said, 72 years for this to happen. So we're at the peak of this alignment now, and we're above it. And each next generation, I think it will be born even, better and better. So we saw this gradual move over 70 years. And I bet if you check out generations from 200-300 years ago, they probably had very little difference.
We did. There was almost no change. Almost no change. So we've been kind of steady of where we've been. And this is really the first generation. Well, it's starting with which one? The Gen Z started the shift. But the generation Alpha is just a drastically different type of humans that are coming. So this is by 2046, 45, they'll make up 25% of human population on this planet. So if we're looking
that's exactly after the galactic alignment with the center of the galaxy. And in esoteric astrology, we know that all the spiritual impulses for every galaxy comes from the high spiritual vibration, comes from the galactic center. So any alignment with the galactic center, which is so rare, it's consciousness rising.
We did a very interesting episode on ancient civilizations that we have in our membership community. And they also had high vibrational frequencies, the Incas, the Mayans, the Aztecs, and
okay,
not all of them did, but some of them had high vibrational frequencies. Yes, again, this was
the last alignment was probably 7,000 years ago, something. So maybe since then it started decreasing again and reached the bottom and started rising gradually again, something like that. There's cycles, like cycles.
Yes.
You
say like 72-year cycles, maybe, or
no, thousands of years.
7,000.
7,000 years.
Well, they're actually 24,000 years is the Platonic year, where the consciousness recedes, and then starts rising again. But every time at a different level.
Okay.
So we started again.
Yes. So this is, I think it's such a beautiful information for people to have, to give us hope, and also to give people an opportunity that we're not the victims of everything that's happening here, that we are in charge of our actions, our responses, and knowing this information of where we all are from a collective perspective gives us an invitation to work on a deeper level on ourselves and not seek out external people to blame. And
no, because
they're going to save us, though, the young generation, aren't they? I'm working out on myself.
They're going to remind us to align with who we are, the divine essence that exists in all of us.
Exactly. They're not going to save us. They're going to give us an example of how it's done so they can save us.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Alejandro, Elena, beautiful couple. And I'll put the link below for if anyone would like to go to their membership, their website. It's an affiliate link if you're interested. And just anyone that you're interested in, they're covering historical figures, current, present events, medical interventions like a feeling of a tooth, like breast implants, fascinating institutions like banks, companies, everything.
We just actually started including books. We've had people ask us, can you start including different books, types of meditations,
yes,
different philosophical belief systems, films. I mean, we're compiling so much data. It's probably the largest living data that is ongoing.
Frequency library.
Yes.
Frequency library. I love this. Yeah.
Yes.
The frequency library. You're bringing the book of life
to life.
To life with
digital
frequencies.
format.
Yes. Yes. So thank you so
much, beautiful family. Continue your exploration. And I'll go check out on my alphas.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.